Now we have officially begun. So thank you all again for showing up today. We are going to have a presentation from MAPS, the VCRM crew, as well as AbleLink and their Wayfinder application, showing off an integration that we're going to be able to take advantage of. And so without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and shut my mouth, turn off my camera, and toss it over to Dr. Jem Bumble. Thank you all.
Hey everyone, good morning, or I guess good afternoon. It's great to see you all. And we are thrilled to be talking with you today about a new integration between the Virtual Community Resource Map and Wayfinder. And we think it's going to be really transformational for supporting your clients. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up a slide deck, but know that you can drop questions into the chat as we go. We want to make sure that you have time for questions and that we can answer them all during today's call. So a little bit of agenda for our time today. We're going to talk about the benefits of this integration. We're going to talk about some of the functionality, what kind of data we'll be collecting to support you and to support Tennessee in their efforts. We'll do a demo of how this fits into the virtual community resource map, what it looks like on the Wayfinder side, and then let's save time for questions and next steps. So a few of our benefits to this new integration. We know that a lot of you are using the virtual community resource maps and you're also using Wayfinder, and this is going to connect them in a way that's really seamless and makes sense because as you're using the map, it would make sense that you would then kind of take your routes and integrate them into that virtual community resource map. So we're creating a one-stop shop where not only people can map out the assets in their community, but set out the routes to travel to them, to engage with them, and to learn from them. You'll be able to set up travel training without relying on other people to set up those directions and that route planning. So Wayfinder has been working to create a new kind of seamless process where we don't have to go through so many approval levels. And once you create that map, it is create that route is automatically embedded into the VCRM. There's going to be more connection between using the virtual community resource map and knowing how it connects to those assets in the community. Supporters will still have the same level of access, not only to the virtual community resource map, but to the routes to be able to add routes and edit and refine routes over time. And we'll have new data to tell us when those routes are being created in the virtual community resource map to really tell us how much people are using this new tool to support them in the community. A little bit of a guide of like where we've been on this journey. The first things we had to do was, of course, figure out the features that we wanted to add, how it would function. We've been working really hard to build out these technical components and do some internal testing. And the next steps are going to be to pilot with a couple of providers and then to expand this new feature to the broader Tennessee Maps community. So without any further ado, I will hand things over to Matt Flanagan, and he's going to show us what this looks like on the My VCRM side, and then Wayfinder is going to show what it looks like on their side. So you'll see the whole thing soup to nuts. Matt?
All right, Shan, if you could just let me know that you can hear me clear and you can see my screen.
Yep, you're all set.
Perfect. Okay. So this is super exciting to be able to share this with you all today. What we're going to be looking at here is a demo creator account. So one of the individuals that we support, they've got their person-centered VCRM, their person-centered virtual community resource map here. It's got all of those people, places, and programs related to the life, which we all know and love through the platform. And now this new feature of being able to get generated routes between those different locations on our VCRM with all of the support and functionality critically that Wayfinder offers. So the way to think about this is that you come into the VCRM, you go to a particular asset that's on your VCRM, and you're able to select to have our system communicate with Wayfinder in order for it to create the route for you between two of those locations on your VCRM. You can do driving, walking, bicycle, or public transit. And as Dan and the team are going to be talking about, you'll have all of that, not just the route, of course, but all of that additional functionality and the power behind Wayfinder to be able to navigate between those different aspects of the VCRM. So let's take a look at what this ends up being. So in any person-centered map where it's enabled, all you have to do is click on an asset. I'll just click on one randomly here, especially one that doesn't have one. So any of the assets on the map could potentially have a Wayfinder route or routes between different assets. You can have multiple routes on an asset. So you don't have to just have a driving route or a bike route or a walking route or a transit route. You can have multiple. And all you need to do is click the button that says build a new route in Wayfinder. Once that's selected, our system uses the bridge that we have developed between the two applications in order to send the information about that asset and the creator to Wayfinder. That information is then used by the Wayfinder system in order to generate those routes. Once those routes are generated and available and approved, they'll be available in our system, where then it's just one click to get our app to automatically open up Wayfinder for you, and then you can start using their supported navigation tools. So let's take a look. We've got a couple already built here. So the maps headquarters here, you'll notice it says 3 routes in Wayfinder. So the system, the two systems, ours and the Wayfinder system, are linked and communicating with each other in multiple ways. So not only can they send information from the VCRM to Wayfinder, but our system also knows which of the routes for that creator, for all of the assets that they have on their VCRM, exist and don't exist. So it knows if a route exists or not. It knows where those directions are for. So the two apps are communicating both ways, which is really important. You can see here that when I click C3 routes in Wayfinder, I've got a driving route, a transit route, and a walking route here. So what happens is when I have the VCRM open on my phone and I click inside the VCRM and I click that I want drive from Maps HQ, for example, to the Lawrence Public Library, it will ask me if I want to open up Wayfinder, and then Wayfinder will take over from there, and I'll be able to use Wayfinder to do my supported navigation. So that's kind of the user experience there. You come into the VCRM, you're clicking on that people, place, or program in your map that you want to navigate to. You'll just simply click like we have here, and then it'll open up the Wayfinder app for you, and you'll be able to travel to that location with support. If you're on your web browser, you'll notice that it'll give a message that it's only available on mobile devices because Wayfinder is a mobile app, but it will open up it'll ask to open up that mobile app for you. So it is a pretty seamless process. Again, just a couple clicks. If you don't have a route created yet, all you have to do is click build a new route and select where you want it to go from and to, and the type of transportation method. And when you click on build route, it sends the information automatically over to Wayfinder, to the travel manager, to get everything all set up for you. Once that route is available, they'll automatically be able to click inside the VCRM, open up Wayfinder automatically, and go and use Wayfinder. So you don't have to open up Wayfinder separately. This application, ours, once it has the information, will automatically prompt you to open it, and then you'll be able to use their tool in order to travel independently and with supports. So now we're going to hand it over to Dan and his team, and what you'll see is examples of what these routes look like now that an individual inside the VCRM has said, hey, I'd like to travel here. Here's the places I want to go. Here's the way I want to travel there. So now you'll be able to see what those routes look like.
All right, great. Thanks, Matt. I will share my screen now and we'll take a look. So as Matt was demonstrating there, kind of behind the scenes, the VCRM system and AbleLink's Wayfinder ecosystem were talking to each other to generate the route that was requested. All the routes that are requested from VCRM are put in a folder called VCRM Routes, and then there's subfolders underneath that. This is the Tennessee Travel Training Smart Route Library that everybody who's involved with the training in Tennessee for the MAPS project has access to. I'll click on the VCRM routes, and this just has two categories here. One, the supporter user is just a sample name that's used in the VCRM for that individual person. So that is where this new route is placed. So the routes that Matt referred to there was this one, the MAPS HQ to Lawrence Public Library. There was also down below, there's this MAPS HQ to the Uplift Coffee Shop. That's a walking route. And then this new one was just created, or a new one is created also in here. And it takes about, 1 to 3 or 4 minutes basically to create the route. So that's what you'll see when you get to the route library logged in. So let's take a look at one of these here, this MAPS HQ to Lawrence Public Library route. I can click on this button here that says show route on map. Gives me a little preview first, but then this little link here, it says show detailed map. When I click on that, it actually shows the map more full screen. So I can see that this route begins over here. It provides some walking instructions. Each of the prompts are provided with there's some text on the screen, but then the verbal audio that you hear is going to be more verbose. It'll say turn right at whatever the name of this, at Trail Road to head towards your bus stop or something like that. So what's happening with the route creation is our tool is basically interacting with Google Maps information to build kind of the best path to that destination, and based upon the type of travel that was selected. So if, in this case, when this route was created, this was a transit route. So we've got walking instructions down here, but then as we drill down in closer, we see that there's a bus stop that the individual is going to be getting on for this this trip. And once they get on that, they continue on, and it tells them when to pull the cord to get off the bus. And then it continues with walking instructions, which are all these red pins that you see here to get you towards your destination. While routes are created, there's various features that are kind of built into the route creation process. These are some of the things that are talked about in the training, like using landmarks to help people orient to the trip. Our automatic route generation tool uses that same approach as well, and it will pull in landmarks for different locations. This tool is we're continuing to enhance it and that's going to happen over time. We're building in capabilities to have support provided to individuals along the way, in addition to the travel instructions, things that might say, hey Sue, you're halfway to work. You have about 15 minutes left on your bus trip, something like that. So that, even though that's not a travel instruction, it helps an individual orient to the trip, know they're in the right place, and to feel feel confident that they're where they're supposed to be and all that. So let's take a look at another one here. I'll go back. Here's a walking route. This one, MAPS HQ to the Uplift Coffee Shop. I'll take a look at that one. Look at the detailed map and drill down on that. So this is a little shorter route because it's just walking instructions. You see the start pin is always shown in green. begin the trip here, shows you the travel times about 9 minutes. That's just as you're looking at this route and kind of reviewing it, it gives you a sense for, how long it's going to take, what the path of travel is, etc. So again, in our training that everyone participates in Wayfinder, we show you in that training how to create routes with the Wayfinder app itself. And you can still do that. And that's where you also can edit routes. One of the locations you can edit routes. But this tool is really designed to give you a leg up and make it much quicker for you to be able to get that initial route to be able to work with, and then start reviewing and customizing it if you need to customize it further for the individual. Pictures are selected from Google Maps, automatically as well. So that's a good place where you might look at a picture and say, well, let me modify that picture a little bit and get a different perspective based upon what the person's going to be looking at when they're walking, from north to south on that street or whatever it might be. So those are a couple of the routes that have been created through the automatic route creation system here. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to bring up some slides that kind of show you. So what happens next? Great, you got this route created. Can I just put that on the individual's Wayfinder right away and they begin using it immediately? We don't recommend that. We recommend that you want to validate the route before you would have any individual travel. So the route's not going to automatically be put on the individual's device. That works the same as it does now. Once you're satisfied with the route, you've made whatever changes that you need to make to the route, then you download it to their device. When it's downloaded to their device, that's when, as Matt showed and illustrated there, that you can launch the route right from the VCRM app. So while they're in the VCRM, they can select that they want to begin this route and launch Wayfinder, and it will launch that route now that it's been downloaded to their device. So let me bring up my slides here and continue here with the kind of the discussion of why this is important and what do you do next. So what we've already talked about so far is on the left here, you've got the VCRM and the map for an individual. The button is there for building the new route. And our system then, once that request is made, it'll take a few minutes to create that route, pulling in pictures, crafting the audio instructions, etc., for the individual. So the route is generated in that way. That's put into the online library, and we took a look at that a moment ago. But the key thing here is, and I can't emphasize this enough, is this is a draft route. It's not a route that's ready to go for the individual without having it tested by the travel trainer that's working with the individual. So it's critical to review that route and approve it prior to making that available. And that's why the route doesn't automatically show up on the individual's device. We want to keep that important step in the process as well. So in the VCRM, the routes listed along with the assets for traveling in the community or whatever, however that is organized, and the route itself is saved to the map smart route library. So the route is listed in the VCRM. The route doesn't exist in the VCRM. The travel instructions and all that, those are Wayfinder specific. So the route is listed there. You can select that route, launch it from the button within the VCRM to launch Wayfinder, but the route itself is a Wayfinder route that will exist on the Wayfinder device once it's been downloaded, but initially be put into the Maps Smart Route Library as we looked at a moment ago. Now, this is a new feature. It's probably the first time any of you are hearing about this. We've created a new way to create routes and edit routes. All of what's provided in the current training about using the Wayfinder app still applies. All of that is doable, but we now have a second and a very powerful way to edit the routes and make those changes that you need to validate the route is going to meet the needs of the individual. So in the route library, you will be seeing a button called Edit Route. Now, it's not, if you go into the route library right now for Tennessee, you're not going to see it yet. One of the goals for today is to identify, some of you who might be interested in trying out this new functionality, so we can implement that and get that edit button available to you, as well as the automatic route creation capability. But this is where ultimately, and it won't be long before we get to that point where everybody will have this available to them. You'll select the route that's been created from the VCRM in the route library and hit this edit button to make changes to the route. What that does is it opens up our online route builder application. This is kind of the dashboard of that application, showing several routes, on my screen here. And and I don't want to miss out again to say that all of the capability of the edit routes is still on the Wayfinder app as well. So you can do it either way, and any changes that you make on the Wayfinder app, you upload to the library to upload the kind of the master copy there. But the route builder, we're going to talk a little bit more about that, the new route builder application. So when this edit button is launched and it opens up Route Builder on your device. This is not on a phone. This is on a, it could be a tablet or it could be a, computer. So this is your editor to make changes to the route itself. You can see this one here has, 10, looks like 10 different waypoints listed here on the left. And then on the right, this is kind of the overall picture of what that route is. And as I click on each of these on the left, it'll open up the waypoint editor and I can make changes to those specific ones. Now, the first thing you would typically do when you would go in to edit the route or take a look at the route is you want to preview it. You want to see what it came up with. So the preview button here is on the bottom is used to preview the route. So we do have a preview route capability right on the Wayfinder app, but even before you've downloaded the app, the route to the individual's device or your own device, you can preview it here within the Route Builder application. This allows you to see the images that were selected, hear those audios, see the text that's on the screen, and each time I hit the next button, it would bring up the next, instruction that has been created. Once you see one, if you want to change the text that's there or change the image, you can just hit the edit step button right there, and it'll allow you to make changes very quickly to that. An example here is in the location data area of the route editor for a specific waypoint. This red pin indicates where this particular instruction is going to be presented. If I want that one to be down here on the bottom left, I just click it and it moves the pin there. So it's a very simple way to, move the location for each of the prompts that show up. So in this route builder, you can update the instructions, both the instructions that are shown on screen, as well as the verbal instructions, which might be more lengthy and more, have more information in them. That's the audio instructions that the individual hears. You can make those changes by simply typing in what you want it to say, and the application can generate audios for you. So you don't have to record the audios yourself. You can do that if you want to. That capability is still there, but we really tried to build in features to make it quicker to create routes and to make these changes or edits to a route that you would need to make to validate it and to personalize it for an individual. So updating the instructions, changing the images is a great way to do that. You know, when you're on a location, you can just click a button to pull up the Google Street View. You can turn the orientation, you know, move it a little left, move it right, focus in on a building, and then do a snapshot right there, and it's just placed right into the waypoint. And then I showed you here moving waypoints as well. So lots of things you can do in the builder to modify the route and validate the route. After you've completed that part of the process here, so we've started with it with the VCRM, generated the route, it's in the library, we're editing the route, we're done with that. Now we download the edited route to the Wayfinder app, and you do that just as you've seen in the training instructions. Within Wayfinder, you go to the library and select that route and download it. After you've done that, the next step is traveling the route. And this is the validation of the live route yourself. Now, if you want to, and if it's a transit route, you can ride the bus. You don't have to. Oftentimes you can just use your car to drive the route in the same way that the bus is going to go. And you'll see when the prompts come up, and if you need to make any changes to that, you take notes. You make those notes on while you're traveling it, and then you can go back and make those changes with the online editor. Or if you want to, you can just do them in real time on the Wayfinder device and edit that route, that you're traveling with. Once that process is done, you've now, made those changes, personalized it, incorporated picture in the person's name and, in places if you want to, so that they know it's been very personalized for them. Excuse me. And you get to the point where you say, okay, this route is good. We're ready to test it out with the individual themselves. Obviously, this is if you're working with a MAPS participant. You don't have to be yet working with them. The training is set up so that you can go through it and complete it. If you don't have a MAPS participant assigned yet, that's a modification that's been made fairly recently, because we really want you to kind of be ready and have all the training in place, complete those activities, and then you'll be all set when you have individuals available to you to provide travel instructions for and provide that support. So once you're to that point, you can download the app or to the route to the individuals, the MAPS participants' phone, and begin providing the training on that and practice the route, traveling it with them a few times perhaps, or maybe if the first time you go, you're sitting next to them, and then the next time you're sitting several seats away, and you're kind of fading your presence as you go along. Up to the point where they're riding the bus themselves, and maybe you're following along in a car to provide assistance if needed. So that's kind of the overall process from the point of getting the route created in VCRM, editing it, testing it out, validating it, and then working with the individual so that they can head out and do the travel all by themselves. And the last slide I've got here is, so what happens after the travel training is complete? Now, while the MAPS participant is still in their 3 years of MAPS support, once they complete their travel, the goal is to move that individual from the training environment to a deployment environment that your organization supports, and that's all already in place. The library, a private agency route library is all set up for you and ready to be used. That's once individuals complete the training, and of course you've completed the training yourselves, and you can take that individual's Wayfinder device and basically set it up to connect to your private agency's library. What's the benefit of that? Well, one benefit is you don't have all the routes for everybody in the state of Tennessee that are participating in MAPS have all their routes showing up in the same training route library. Each organization can then have their own routes within their own smart route library, and you don't have to dig through as much information to kind of view the information that's relevant to the people that you're serving. And secondly, the travel manager application is the application where trips are tracked. So you can view trips in real time as individuals travel and provide kind of remote assistance as needed. And so the trips in real time are viewable within the travel manager, as well as historical trips. So that's a way to kind of keep track of, who's using their Wayfinder app to travel from home to work. You've created this route. Now you obviously want people to use it, and you'll be able to view in the travel manager application all the historical record of when those trips have been traveled. So keep this in mind. This is the next step after the training is complete. While people are still being supported by MAPS, they can be moved into your private your private Wayfinder ecosystem for your specific agency. Those all exist. They've all been created, and they're available for you to use as soon as you're ready to be able to use those. All right, I'm going to stop there and stop sharing my screen, and we can open the meeting for questions that you have. Both for us here at AbleLink, as well as the VCRM folks also.
Really quick, it did look like we had a question in the chat from Joshua Owen and he had asked, will the individual's live location be visible on the map? But I think that may have been when you were showing some of the screenshots earlier of generating the routes. But Joshua, would you clarify which point you were asking about the live location?
I can talk to that a bit. While an individual is traveling with the Wayfinder app on a specific route, location data is sent. And first off, there's an option within the device to turn this on or off. And basically, tracking data is only there if it's been allowed on the device by the individual, of course. So these are no one's going to be tracked without their knowledge. Okay, so but that capability provides real-time location data for the individual while they are traveling their route. So it shows when they begin the route, and a notification actually can be sent out to a travel trainer or a family member if they want to, or whoever that is, that they've begun their route. That notification includes a location link of where the individual is at that time. But the travel manager application, the web application I showed you there towards the end, is what you can use to follow the individual in real time as they are taking a trip. And you can also view, have they responded to the prompts or not? There's capabilities within Wayfinder to make simple phone calls and text messages and communicate, with whoever's been, entered into their address book basically on their device. So there's a way to kind of communicate back and forth. One of the features that we're building, which isn't in there yet, but you will be seeing it in the next year, is a live video capability between the travel manager application and the Wayfinder app while an individual is traveling and getting their travel instructions. So there's a little window that pops up if they want to speak to someone and have someone basically virtually travel with them while they're, maybe taking the bus for the first time to provide that, peace of mind. So that the app keeps track of their location while they're in a actual Wayfinder route and while they're taking a trip. And when they complete that route, it stops tracking them. It only does it while they're in an actual route. Now there's other devices like Life 360 or different things like that can provide general tracking information of the phone. So that may be something separate. That's, if you choose to utilize that and the individual wants that kind of support remotely from individuals. But Wayfinder itself only provides that tracking, number one, when it's been turned on, number two, when the individual is taking a trip within Wayfinder.
Yeah, and I think judging by the timestamp, it was when y'all were showing the screenshots during some of the setup of the actual route, and my guess is that it was to see current location compared to where they want to, but in which case the feedback would be, let's establish a route to get to that location, because this doesn't feel like it's designed to be something ad hoc that as you're walking around making up your decision while you're moving, rather so let's create something planned, something that's understood, and so in which case the GPS and the setup is not quite as relevant.
Right, and so that planning is happening now in the VCRM. So it's part of that broader person-centered planning, goal development conversation. So based upon that particular goal, what are the people, places, and programs in the community that are going to help us make progress towards that goal? So it happens there. And then that is, so another reason why it wouldn't kind of just be ad hoc, because now it's going to be that sequence.
Looks like Joshua, do you have another question?
Yeah, sorry, I tried to get on there and it kicked me out right when I turned off my mic. So I'm sorry about that. That was really good information though, from what I caught. The reason why I was asking that question is just, I was thinking about, with some of the individuals I have, if they were to go individual, on their own on a travel route, I think that some of their, guardians or parents would be wanting to know kind of where they're at in their process and being able to monitor it. As well as the individual, if they were to be, following that map line, and knowing like, okay, is this the corner I'm supposed to turn, or how they can gauge where they are during that process. And I don't know if I missed that part of the answer or not. My apologies, but that was kind of what my question was there.
Yeah, while an individual is traveling a route with Wayfinder, an individual who has access to the travel manager application can log in and follow that route in real time. Now we have the capability to allow you to create access to that for example, the parents of an individual, where when they log in, they only see the individual that they're connected to. They don't get access to all of the routes that are in, and all the individuals that are traveling. They'll just see the person that they've been kind of assigned to. So that's a user level access that is available to offer to family and such. That's particularly something that is probably going to be utilized more when you transition out of the training to the day-to-day implementation of the Wayfinder system. And then you're utilizing your own private agency's route library and travel manager tracking application, and the account would be set up in that one. So the family member would log in and they would see, the trips for their son or daughter, and no one else's. Does that answer your question?
It does. That's awesome. This is exciting stuff. Thank you.
So we have another question in the chat. There it is. Would the platform be capable of rerouting if an error did take place, or if an obstruction took place, such as construction?
No, it's a good question. The Wayfinder app currently doesn't have a rerouting capability, but it does have the capability to detect when someone is off route. And when an individual is off route, they're alerted to that fact and a caregiver or travel trainer can be alerted to that fact as well, along with the location of where the individual is at that point in time. What we train people to do in those situations is that's when individuals use the communication capabilities that are within the app to reach out to get assistance while they're still in the route. That their location will be sent to that person in real time. They can see it in the travel manager application, and they can then kind of drill down and say, okay, it looks like you're in front of the Starbucks here. The bus stop is 2 blocks down this way. If you go down there, you'll be able to, get back on route or whatever it might be. So there's not dynamic route, modification capability within it, the application, but the communication tools in there and the detection when an individual is left to the travel route is built in. It also tells you when you're back on the travel route. One of the features we have is on our list to explore is kind of some dynamic travel instructions with arrows and such that would point you back to the travel route, if you were to get off of it. But that is not a feature that's in the system currently. Good question.
We'll give it about another minute if anyone has any more questions. Well, good deal. If those questions do pop up, you can route those questions to the AbleLink Maps address as well as to ourselves. I did want to take just a couple minutes to explain what the rollout of this functionality is going to end up looking like. And so we just did our lunch and learn. We saw the integration between VCRM, how we access that, as well as what it looks like within the Wayfinder platform. And so our next step is going to be fielding interest. Obviously, we're looking for people who are currently using their VCRM or have experience with Wayfinder. We don't have to have interest in both. In fact, I see a lot of opportunity to build fidelity across those platforms by getting people who are maybe interested in just one over the other. But obviously, if we have some MAPS participants who are currently utilizing both, that's going to be our #1 target. And so first things first, across our provider network, are people who are utilizing their VCRM and their Wayfinder, but then maybe those who are also maybe just prioritizing one over the other. That's who we're looking for. And so expect over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be reaching out to providers, especially those who we know are currently utilizing the platform well. So expect that contact. And what we're going to be encouraging is to establish a setup meeting with VCRM and AbleLink. That setup meeting is going to be a brief video call where you can hear some of the information and walk through a bit of what you saw in the presentation today. Again, we just want you to feel comfortable with its utilization. They've tried to make it as seamless as humanly possible. And in truth, if you're privy to how it works in the VCRM and how Wayfinder works, not a ton is going to be changing. You still have the functionality to edit your routes, etc. We're just making this process a lot more accessible to everybody. So during that setup, you'll be able to see that walkthrough again, but you'll also be able to hear what kinds of routes should be completed for that pilot. And this isn't so much about a timed pilot as much as it is about getting different kinds of routes and testing the utility and the efficacy of the platform and the integration between the two. And so that interest, we're going to communicate that to AbleLink as well as contact from the provider, as well as interested participants. And that will be what establishes that setup meeting from AbleLink. And so as you all start to work with AbleLink, you'll be able to use the AbleLink Maps email address for comments, needs, and questions, as well as support for anyone who is trialing that. But then we'll schedule a follow-up meeting once those routes are completed to get some feedback, see what you're feeling, how it worked out. but then we will progress to the next steps to opening it up to the provider network. And so if you already have some people in mind, or if you've already been discussing as an agency that this is something you want to try, reach out to your transition guide, reach out to myself today, because like I said, over the next couple of weeks, you'll be hearing a lot more about this as we get some of those names and providers who will be trialing this experience. And so really excited about that. Does anyone have questions related to the rollout and what to expect over the next couple of weeks as we're reaching out? Brilliant. And if you do have those questions, obviously you know how to reach out to AbleLink. You can reach out to VCRM. You can reach out to our team, your transition guide, and we'll make sure that we get everyone that needs to be in this pilot involved in it. It's a really exciting opportunity to take something so powerful as Wayfinder, as powerful as VCRM, and combine those two things to make something accessible for our participants. And so I want to say thank you to the MAPS VCRM crew, as well as to AbleLink for their time today. I also want to open the floor if you all have any closing statements.
I just wanted to mention I did put our 2 email addresses, map specific ones. We have one for questions related to training or any kind of assistance you need with that at maps.training@ablelinktech.com, and then any tech support questions regarding the phones or devices or apps on the phones and all of that. maps.support@ablelinktech.com.
As always, if you need anything related to VCRM, it's help@myvcrm.com, and we'll be sure to jump right in there and help you. One thing I didn't mention during our demo today is that for those who are looking to get engaged in the pilot and would be using it, thereafter, we will have video resources in the Learning Center as well as directly in the tour that we've added over the past year. So there will be multiple ways inside the VCRM platform to learn and remember and be comfortable with using this integration as well.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. And just a couple quick reminders. We did update our training resource guide. And so if you all happen to jump down to the ELP portion, you will see that as much as we want to encourage providers to use MAPS participants for that training, again, it's the most hands-on experience you're going to get with the platform. We have opened up the opportunity to be able to complete that training without a MAPS participant. We still expect the same route generation, the same amount of detail, but we are allowing you all to generate those routes, travel those, test them out, etc., as part of that ELP. That way we can get more people trained on the Wayfinder. Again, this is going to be a really powerful integration. The more people we get using the platform and feeling comfortable with the platform, the more buy-in we're going to get. And so thank you all so much for that. I believe that is everything we have for today. And so be on the lookout. We are going to get this published online because I'm sure people are going to want to return to this video for sure. And so look for that. Hopefully next week it will be published and I'll send it out to everybody. But like I said, next couple of weeks, be on the lookout. We're going to be reaching out to a lot of our providers as well as participants. And so thank you all. Thank you, AbleLink. Thank you, MAPS VCRM. And thank you all providers as well as Charles Lee Center for hopping on here. That will conclude our meeting today a little bit early as well. And so hopefully y'all learned. I know I did. Go enjoy the rest of your lunch. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Kyle. Thanks, guys.